Little bit longer. We had to wait till Monday night because we are in action tonight against Sheffield United, and the teams have just been announced. But this is my debut on the Gunners Town Show, the Arsenal fan show right here on Love Sport. And can I say, to be in your pleasure, Chris, tonight, and the whole team who I will meet at some point, is an absolute pleasure. But the team news has just been announced.
It's dropped.
We was waiting to go on. It has been dropped, Chris, and both of us just went. Certain names not playing, certain names are playing. Chris, let's say the teams, and firstly, what are your thoughts on the team news?
Well, he's gone with Leno, Chambers at right back, Luis, Sokratis.
Very nice pronunciation. You're showing me up already.
Thank you. I do try. He's gone with Kolasinac at left back, and we all thought that Tierney was fit to play. So that's an interesting move. Not 100% sure I agree on it, particularly with the way that Sheffield United line up by their overlapping fullbacks, but we can come to that in a bit. Obviously, the midfield of Xhaka and Guendouzi, not surprised. I'd have preferred Torreira, but I'm not surprised with that. And then in front of those, Pepe, Willock, Saka, and then Aubameyang up top. So again, not 100% surprised. Willock has been playing quite well. He's got a responsibility tonight because that's one of the challenges, and we'll get to this at some stage, I'm sure. But one of the challenges we've had is connecting midfield and attack.
And he gets that start today. That was a surprise for me because I suppose for all Arsenal fans, and Chris, you can talk for them tonight. One of the things that the fans have been calling out for is we want to see Bellerin start, we want to see Tierney start, Holding, we want him to come back. We know he's had a terrible injury, this injury layoff, and when the international break comes around, there's no games to talk about, so we linger on the players, we linger on that formation just that slightly a little bit longer, and I've seen it all over social media, and it could spread like wildfire. This is the starting 11. Unai, just try this once, has been many of the hashtag, just try this team once. This isn't the team that we've all wanted, but it is the team that's sent out tonight. Willock starting, no Tierney, Kolasinac is in there. Ultimately, we always say this, can this team go and get the 3 points tonight, and will they?
Yes, they can. Will they? I'm not sure. I have reservations. Because Guendouzi and Xhaka going forward with his long ball distribution, not really got a problem with that. But Xhaka going back towards his own goal, I feel like I've said this about 6 or 7 times on this show, it's not great. And Guendouzi has been vastly improved this season, but again, it's mainly where we've seen the improvement is where he wins the ball. It's his intensity. He's winning the ball higher up the pitch. He's pressing people. He's not somebody that defensively is that great. So in our defensive third, I have my concerns. So Sheffield United will look at that, and Chris Wilder's no mug. He will know. He'll have looked at us, and he sets up his teams knowing exactly how they'll line up. And they gave Liverpool a tough old day on their own turf, and that's where we are tonight. And my concern is he'll look at that team and think, we've got a chance here. Yeah,
you're right, Chris, and also, but they are better away from home than they are at home at Bramall Lane. They have 24 clean sheets since the start of last season, which is the most in all the 4 tiers of the English football, the 92 clubs. They have the most. They've made a brilliant start to the Premier League. What do you make of Sheffield United? And we talk about the overlapping centre-backs, the overlapping full-backs. Chris Wilder, he's certainly a manager that, I find him quite refreshing. He seems to me this year that he just tells it how it is. Sometimes we hear the media speak through managers. He criticised Dean Henderson the other week, then he come back with a storming performance. Were unlucky not to get a point against Liverpool. After that international break, they don't have a great record on their first game back, but they're going to be up for this task tonight, aren't they? In front of their home fans. We always hear about us. Me and you were talking before the show. They said, Arsenal's a side we can always take it to in the physical sense of the game. We're really up for this one. They can be got at. I can assume we both don't like that tag about Arsenal. But why is it that, we can't shrug that off, Chris, and why still do teams say this about us?
I think there's a lot of narrative, and it's very difficult to shake narratives when they go on for this long. We had a legacy manager for so long that you're going to get that sort of narrative, and unless we start picking up and grinding out dirty, ugly, disgusting wins, like, I'd love us to get a disgusting 1-0 tonight, which is ground out, proper old school Arsenal. Until we start doing that on a more regular basis, we're going to keep getting away fans that don't really watch. They watch a little bit of Match of the Day and they think they know Arsenal. They're going to say these sort of things. But what's interesting about us under Unai Emery, from my perspective, is we aren't silky sort of total football anymore. We do press more than we did under Wenger towards the end of his reign. But again, we've talked about it so many times, it's probably boring people that are listening about finding that style and identity. are we going to win the ball higher up the pitch? We don't always seem to do that, and he didn't do that against. I mean, I didn't watch all of the Man United game, but I believe he sort of sat back a little bit in that game. And there's been a couple of games where we've not really pressed as high. So, yeah, I don't know. How do we shake that? Well, grind out disgusting wins.
He's very true. Nothing better than a boring Arsenal 1-0 win as they used to.
I'll take it
Chris,
tonight.
I'll certainly take it as well. We can agree to that. It's a flying start on the Arsenal Fan Show. We like free-flowing attacking football, but we like 3 points just as much. Another name that's getting a run in the team, and certainly one that I wanted, I don't know about all Arsenal fans, Chambers, possibly, sounds crazy. He was Player of the Year for Fulham last year. He had a good run in the middle side, all at holding midfielder. He is getting this run now at right back because Ainsley Maitland-Niles made his position clear. He said he was not a right back, doesn't see his future there, doesn't want to play there. Chambers, admittedly, he's come in and he's playing very well. He's certainly more than capable. What have you made of Callum Chambers so far, Chris?
Well, I'm a big fan of his, actually. I was a big fan when he signed.
This is starting too well.
I know. We need to start arguing with each other a bit more.
Give it a minute.
I think Chambers is a good player. I think what's happened with Maitland-Niles, which actually is a good thing, and I'm an advocate of, is, he was under the cosh a little bit. Fans were getting on his back. He did that interview where he even said, I'm trying, and it was starting to turn a little bit sour. And he's a good player, and he's a player that we should protect a little bit. And hopefully, maybe Unai Emery's doing that. He's saying, well, okay, I'm going to pull you out a little bit from playing right back because, you've had a couple of not great games. And then Chambers has come in, and what's great about Chambers is he seems to be doing the simple things really, really well. He knows his strengths. He's not quick. He's not the quickest in the world, but he is a half decent defender. So as long as he's not on the turn and faced up against a tricky winger, Jefferson Montero versus Swansea all of those years ago style, then he can do a job for us. But I'm quite surprised that he's not even thought about. I don't even think Bellerin is in the squad tonight. So I don't know whether or not that means he'll play on Thursday against Vitoria. I'm sure we'll get to that later. Yeah. But me personally, I would have played one of Tierney or Bellerin because I think we need to just start getting them in there now, seeing how they go. They've had a few weeks. Bellerin perhaps less so than Tierney because he's had a longer injury. Tierney's only really, I think Tierney had part of a summer and then he's been in training for a good part of the month now, and he's had a couple of starts for us. So it feels like he's ready, and I thought that this would be his opportunity. But maybe Unai Emery's saying to Kolasinac, look, mate, you're going to get a chance, and I will play you if you play well. So really, it's on Kolasinac to have an absolute stormer tonight, because Tierney will be breathing down his neck.
He certainly is, because I think Arsenal have something like 10 games in 22 days or something like that. The games come thick and fast now after this international break. Maybe there's an element of, I don't want to give it to Tierney straight away. Let's still let him earn that spot, because if he comes in, he still hasn't started a lot of games. Just now he's got to match fitness. If he gets the spot straight away, he's not really had to work and earn for it, even though you do need to play your best players. I thought tonight we would see Tierney and then he would be rested on Thursday, Kolasinac, because he normally plays a slightly weaker side in Europe, and we still normally tend to coast through the group. I want to pick up on something you did mention, Chris, because on the Fan Show we can go a little bit off script. You've allowed me to. We can do it. You said Chambers is a player we have to protect a little bit.
Maitland-Niles is a player.
Oh, Maitland-Niles, excuse me. I was going to say Chambers, and I was going to say it doesn't really matter which player. The question is still the same, in the sense that in this day and age, social media, 2019, and we're seeing everything's so instant now. Fans are YouTubing, tweeting, social media. How can we protect players, Chris? Because as soon as they have a bad game, you know what fans are like, knee-jerk reaction. We're calling from out the side, or when they do well, and not a hypocrite. I do it myself. But how can we protect him? And the point I was going to marry this up with to Callum Chambers is he's not the paciest of right backs. He's not really a right back. I think he's a centre half or a holding midfielder. But I think he reads the game very, very well. And I think that's the position we should play him. But when he is at right back, it's amazing when he looks great against Nottingham Forest or these Europa League games. But when you do come up against that classier, pacier winger, we can get found out. And then we can go straight back into Callum Chambers, not good enough for Arsenal. But it's not necessarily the case, is it?
No, and I think we... to your original point, which was around how do we protect players, I'm not sure that you can. I think we just need to... I think in the current age that we've got, footballers need to be accepting that there are a lot of morons out there, and when some people are given a keyboard, they react appallingly, and you need to grow a bit of a thicker skin. That doesn't mean that some of the abuse is acceptable. In fact, some of the abuse is totally unacceptable. So I think there's an element of players managing their own sort of expectations of the types of human beings that can be keyboard warriors. I think there's us as fans. For every idiot, if there are 4 people saying you're doing a good job, then a person's going to think, well, the majority doesn't lie. So positivity helps. And I think also the clubs have a duty to, make sure that players are aware as to what their life leads before them when they join a club like Arsenal and things like that. In terms of Chambers himself, he's not a right back, is he? He's a centre half, and so my hope is that he can be given a chance at centre half. I'm not sure that's ever going to happen though, because we've got Sokratis, we've got Luiz, we've got Holding, and even Mustafi, who is at the club, and I think he'll be used. He'll probably get used on Thursday, for example. I just think Chambers is going to be a makeshift right back. I suspect it'll be Bellerin on Thursday, and it'll be Holding and probably Mustafi, because there's just something. Unai Emery seems to have something about him that he doesn't want to play Chambers at centre half. I'm not sure why, because I think we need to give him a shot, because he played well against Newcastle. He's come in and played well at right back in a position that isn't his. So we need to give him a shot.
Well, if he doesn't get that shot at centre half on the same line, he won't get that shot at holding midfielder, will he either, Chris?
No. I can't see that happening at all.
Is that a shame, though? Does he deserve... No, it's hard. I mean, I'm not saying Arsenal should be handing out chances left, right and centre, but, you do want to get a fair crack at the whip, a run in the side. It's very hard to judge when you pick and plug a player for one game, isn't it? Because you're jumping on... judging on such a small sample size.
Yeah. I really don't quite... I don't quite understand why we're not playing Chambers as a defensive midfielder, or Torreira, to be honest with you. I really don't understand the insistence in playing Xhaka and Guendouzi. I think I like both of the players. I think they're both good players. I just don't think they work that well together because their styles are so similar. So I don't know why he's not going for... I would have played Torreira all day long tonight. And somewhere like Thursday, if you're not going to play Chambers at centre-half, on Thursday you could give him a go. So to me, it's a bit bizarre that he's not trying it, given that the whole world, like if you talk to any Arsenal fan, they talk to Fulham fans, or they've seen Callum Chambers last season, they'll say, well, actually, he's an option there. But people have also said Luiz could be an option there in defensive midfield as well. So we've got 3 decent players that can play in that sort of just in front of the back 4 to offer protection, and he's not doing it, and I'm not 100% sure why, if I'm honest.
Is it a case then, the reason why we're not seeing Torreira is because the manager doesn't really see him as a defensive midfielder? Earlier in the season, the manager made some comments in a press conference where he said, we need to get Torreira further up the pitch. I want him playing in that advanced midfield role. I don't know if that's the best role for him. I'm not a manager. I'm sure Twitter will tell me otherwise as well. But me and you, we're saying Torreira tonight, perfect game for him, up in Sheffield, defensive midfielder. The manager simply doesn't see him as that, does he?
Yeah, I think there's something going on there. I really do, because I do. There's something not right there, because Torreira.
Holmes and Watson here.
He looked very good. We will. We'll decipher this enigma. If you think about it, last season he was brilliant as a defensive midfielder, and then the only time we seem to have seen him this season, there's been times where he's been getting into the box though. When he has played, he's got into the box. And
he scored against Liverpool.
There's clearly instructions. He's clearly been given that instructions, but everyone knows that, and you can see that's not his best position. So, and I think this is where some people are having issues with Unai Emery. I think it's because some of his selection decisions have had people questioning. So people question the Ozil situation. If he's not training and the stats don't back it up and he's not in form, you don't play him. So I can understand that. But the Torreira decision to play him further forward it is odd when he looks much more comfortable playing deeper. He looks like he's actually that sort of ball retriever that we'd looked for years and years and years. And then to insist on playing Xhaka deeper or Guendouzi deeper when that's not what they're good at. That's where people are starting to say, what's going on here with Unai Emery? Because there's some stuff that just isn't adding up.
Yeah, the Unai debate is slowly rambling on. I know you've probably spoke about it at length on these shows, but I'm going to have to get you to all repeat yourself so I can get up to speed with how you think about your team and your manager. But you mentioned Ozil there, and he's a player that done an interview this week, and we're going to be talking a little bit about that next.
Giving your team the coverage they deserve. Love Sport Radio. Listen to Love Sport Radio on your smartphone today. Simply download the free Love Sport app from the App Store or Google Play. Tap the play button and you'll be able to listen to your favourite station. Anytime, anywhere. Love Sport Radio, the station giving fans a voice.
You all right, mate?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah? Really? It's just, there's a massive grizzly bear sitting on you. You sure you're okay?
Well, now that you mention it.
Sometimes we say we're fine when we're not, but with 1 in 4 experiencing a mental health problem, if your mate says he's fine, he might not be. Be in your mate's corner and ask twice. Time to change.
Stop paying too much for your energy bills. Brian saved money on his at aspokesmansaid.com. Can you?
I'm Brian from Swadlincote, South Derbyshire, and I saved about £400 on my energy bill with a Spokesman Said. The iSpokesman Said website was very easy to use, and the money I saved I put towards a holiday.
Compare home energy quotes from the UK's biggest suppliers in just a matter of minutes with aspokesmansaid.com. Fighting for you, saving you money.
Exercise. It doesn't have to mean Lycra or a fancy gym membership. All you need is 10 minutes and you. Because a regular 10-minute brisk walk is a great way to get more active. Whether that's walking to the shops or getting off the bus to stop early. Picking up the pace and getting your heart pumping can make a real difference to your health. So, to see how much brisk walking you're doing and how you can fit more into your day, download the free Active 10 app. Because there's only one you.
I love my brother. We do fun things like playing together. I like having hugs with Freddie. Freddie gives the best hugs. Freddie used to be very poorly, and the doctor said he might need a new liver. Then one day, a very nice person gave their liver to Freddie. It was amazing. We were so happy. Now he's around to give me more hugs than ever.
Tell your family you want to save lives. To find out more, visit organdonation.nhs.uk.
Love Sport.
You are listening to the Arsenal Fan Show on Love Sport Radio with me, Charlie Hawkins. I'm joined in the studio with Gunners Tant and Chris Howard. We were both just saying their frenzied start, hyper start. The passion is coming out from on both. We're both excited for the game. We're nervous for the game. And also, it's my first time doing this. So, Chris, I'm a little bit nervous, but he's giving me all of the best so far. Well, we just want to quickly talk about Ozil. And the team news is out, by the way. And what did you make of it? Me and Chris had our thoughts. Tweet us and let us know at Love Sport Radio or call us 0208 70 20 558. You can WhatsApp on the same number. But now, though, there was a certain interview with a certain Arsenal player who, to be fair, Chris, doesn't get much media attention. You know, he's a player that flies under the radar. You know, I think it's fair to say he's not a high earner. You know, he's not a name that's causes division amongst the fans. No, of course, I'm kidding. It is Ozil. He done the interview in The Athletic in the last 5 days. Certain few things come out of there. I thought some things I can understand to a degree. Some things I thought were a little bit. Firstly, what did you make of it? And also, Martin Keown has had his thoughts on the article in the Metro today, and he's replied. And to put it fairly, he's not happy.
Well, I haven't read the Keown one, so you can give me. Give me an update in a second. General thoughts. I think it came across as quite impassioned. I think people, and me too, you know, Ozil's team, in inverted commas,
his entourage.
His entourage. It's a slick, oiled machine, isn't it? And last season,
not just that haircut.
Yeah, no, exactly. And last season we had, you know, the comments coming out on Twitter at certain times or on Instagram or things like that. You know, about, you know, I think he did a Dennis Bergkamp quote or when he wasn't in the team. So, you know, there were little sly digs here and there pointed towards kind of the manager's direction. This came across to me as though it was quite an impassioned, perhaps reality check from his perspective, saying, look, you know, this is who I am. This is me. I'm not kicking up a fuss. When I've been ill, I've been ill. I mean, I don't buy all of that, I think. And even some of the players have kind of hinted that Ozil gets special treatment. You know, he can have days off here and there. So I suspect there's been times where he's not been ill and has just, shall I say, allegedly. But he's
good save.
Yeah, good save. I think it did. There were parts of it though that came across quite honest, and you know, if this can be a line in the sand, and he can at least patch something up with Emery so that he can be used on a more regular basis between now and when the club eventually offload him, because let's face it, they will offload him, then let's do that. We need this ceasefire, don't we? We need this ceasefire. We can't. It doesn't help anyone if Ozil is not in the team.
Someone needs to raise the white flag.
Exactly. And Emery is not playing him. He needs to have him as an option. And, it came to a head just before the international break where he said Emery said other players deserve it more. Ozil has then come out in this and said, we don't always see eye to eye, but I respect the manager's decision. Let's hope that, it can all die down and it can at least be used. Because a good Mesut Ozil works for Arsenal.
Yeah, I do agree with that. But since that article, I know I told you of Martin Keown. He replied with an article in the Metro, and I tell you what he said. Well, he wasn't happy. He said that every player at Arsenal should fight for the badge, feel lucky to be at a club like that every day, and give 110% in training. He shouldn't blame others. They should blame themselves before they point the finger at anyone else. But then the manager has also come out and with his reply and said, I couldn't be more happier with Ozil. I'm really happy with him ahead of the game tonight, Sheffield United. He's not playing, so I don't know how he measures his happiness. But do we think how much of a friction was there, Chris, or is there between the manager and, we have to say, one of the star players at Arsenal? Because we always get the ramblings of it, or we hear the whispers. But do you think it went a little bit deeper?
I think that Mesut Ozil had been used to a certain lifestyle under Arsenal and Arsene Wenger, and then Unai Emery came in and tried to stamp his mark, and I think that didn't go down
as all new managers do.
Yeah. And I think he's, by the sounds of it, he's not the best at man management, Unai Emery, and so with a player like that, he didn't exactly put his arm around Mesut Ozil, and the result was a little bit of a strop potentially. And that's where the friction has built to, and it's almost, there was then a sort of a peace that broke out towards the end of last season, and then Ozil started getting back into the team, and now it seems to have come back up again. And I think Unai Emery saying, I couldn't be happier, I'm happy with his training now, I think that's almost his kind of, right, I'm drawing a line in the sand as well, so let's just move forward. I haven't actually seen if he's made the bench tonight or not, so I'd be interested to see if he's even on the bench, but we saw the first 11, but I don't know if he's made the bench or not. I don't know if you've got the...
I will find that for you now, Chris, because I don't used to be without that information. Just quickly, earlier we spoke about how we can protect players and how social media plays such a part in today's, the modern game of football. One of the things he mentioned in the article, Chris, was that he said when Arsenal would lose the bigger games, or the games that we perceive as big, he said I would be the first player that fans would blame on social media. I would get the blame for that defeat. And to a degree, I don't think that's overly true. I think the Arsenal fans are honest, and they would say who they think is to blame for that defeat. But if he hasn't played his part in that, if he's not had a great game, he's fair to cop a little bit of criticism. But also, the flip side to that narrative is he right in sense that a little bit we are quick to jump on his name when it hasn't gone right for Arsenal in a certain game?
I don't think Arsenal fans have jumped on him. I think the reason it's his perception that Arsenal fans, I think Arsenal fans jump on any player when there's a defeat. I don't think Mesut Ozil gets singled out. He's started to be singled out more, I think, because of the baggage that comes with him. And unfortunately, that is the huge wage packet. If you're paying somebody £350,000 a week, that's world class elite status footballer. So you need to see world class elite status performances, and sometimes that means that you perform against big teams, small teams, but we haven't seen any of that on a regular enough basis. Like, I love Ozil. I think, like I said to you, a fully functioning and working and performing at his best Mesut Ozil plays tonight without a shadow of a doubt. There's no way that you can tell me, as great as Chris Willock has been and potentially as amazing as he's going to be, if Mesut Ozil is on top form, Chris Willock doesn't play in the 10 tonight. So my
even
view
away,
is,
Sheffield, Coleraine, these are the games he's normally left out for.
Even away, I mean, if this is a Mesut Ozil on form I'm talking about, he plays tonight because he can provide that space in between the midfield and the attack. He can link the play, and we're missing Lacazette, who also links the play as well. So Chris Willock's got a big job tonight.
And I think he'll deliver.
I hope he will. I really, really hope he will. Or he needs to, because we haven't had that position filled. But going back to the Ozil debate, people look at him because of his performances, and this is happening over a period of time. This hasn't just happened overnight. There were times last season, on some of the biggest stage, like the Europa League final, where it's not just that he didn't show up, he was poor. I don't think he was any... There were some players that were just as poor as him, but he was one of the poorest performers on the night. He just didn't really go anywhere with it. So I think it's almost become a snowball effect, is what I'm trying to say. Mesut Ozil has... fans have not turned on him, but a section of fans have turned on him because of the wages and because they haven't seen enough.
Yeah, I think when we talk about the wages, and I'm playing devil's advocate here, I don't necessarily believe what I'm about to say, but when we talk about the wages, 350 grand, obviously his agent knew what he was doing, but it's not overly down to him that they went out and Arsenal agreed to pay him this money. This was down to Arsenal, and they were worried that we were losing players on a free, i.e. the Ramsey. We didn't want this to happen with Ozil, We tie him into this contract. Now, they knew the performances they were getting. They knew of the character he was. The blame, a little bit, has to be with Arsenal. And if he was on, let's say, 200, I'm not excusing these performances, do you think there would be a little bit less heat on him, Chris?
I think so, because if you look at Mkhitaryan was equally as poor.
Woeful.
He was equally as poor as Mesut Ozil has been at times, and yet Mkhitaryan is not as good a footballer as Ozil.
Yeah.
He's never been as good a footballer as Ozil. But he was on less money, and there was less heat on him. I think it kind of comes with the territory.
Yeah.
And I do take your point, and actually I 100% agree that there's a big chunk of this that goes down to the club, and not just the club. Ivan Gazidis, who I was very, very happy when he decided that he wasn't going to be at Arsenal anymore, because he was a terrible thing for our club. Like, we had 10 years of decline, and he was absent at the wheel at times as a CEO, if you ask me.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think that's a show for another day, talking about Ivan, because I think we need slightly more than the allotted hour, Chris. Yeah. But we are talking about Sheffield United, because Arsenal play them tonight away in the Premier League after the international break at Bramall Lane. They are hoping for 3 points. We're going to talk a little bit more about that game next.
This is Love Sport.
You all right, mate?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah? Really? It's just, there's a massive grizzly bear sitting on you. You sure you're okay?
Well, now that you mention it...
Sometimes we say we're fine when we're not, but with 1 in 4 experiencing a mental health problem, if your mate says he's fine, he might not be. Be in your mate's corner and ask twice. Time to change.
You're in leakage, you're in leakage. You're in leakage, you're in leakage. You're in leakage. You're in leakage, you're in leakage.
Henna men. Pants and pads.
You're
discreet. Masculine.
You're
secure absorption zone. Buy online or in shops.
You're in
Tenna men. Keep control.
You're in?
No.
If you're driving on a motorway and you see a red X sign overhead, you need to change lanes safely. Driving in a red X lane is an offence. Red X's are there for a reason, to protect you and others from danger. The lane may be blocked by a broken down vehicle, or road workers, or the lane may be needed for the emergency services. So if you see a red X, change lanes safely. Highways England, connecting the country.
My mum and dad say that I don't need lots of sugar. I'm sweet enough already. So we used the Change for Life food scanner app to find out how much sugar is in our food and drink. It's surprising how much we found. So I put my detective hat on to find the healthier choices. Woohoo! Found one, Mum! You can be food smart too. Download the free Change for Life food scanner app today.
Love Sport.
You are listening to the Arsenal Fan Show on Love Sport Radio with me, Charlie Hawkins. I'm joined in the studio with Gunners Tan and Chris Howard. We're talking everything where Arsenal are concerned, and you can too. Tweet us at Love Sport Radio or call us on 0208 70 20 558. You can also WhatsApp into the studio as well. Me and Chris, as always, we will endeavour to answer all your questions. We've dubbed ourselves, well, I have, the new Sherlock on Holmes at the Arsenal Matters. Where there's an enigma, we will find a way.
Sharky and George.
Oh, it's not as good, but I'll take it, Chris. I will take it. All of the Arsenal problems. We're talking about the game against Sheffield United tonight, because Arsenal fans, well, we've had to wait that little bit longer for that international break to end, because we play tonight, the Monday night game at Bramall Lane. Got to get 3 points. Actually, I want to put a quick question to you, Chris. Just before we come on, I did the handover with Martin Allen on Love Sport Drive. And I said, this is must win for Arsenal tonight. And he went, no way. There's There's no such thing as a must-win 8, 9, 10 games into the season. And I said, well, it's not must-win in terms of top 4 chances done, title chances over. But when you are challenging for the title, when you are challenging for top 4, which Arsenal haven't done in the last 2 seasons, you need to be winning games like this and beating teams like Sheffield United. So in that sense, it is a must-win game.
I would call it a must set down a marker win, which is nowhere near as catchy, I know, but
it works.
We have to set down a marker because Tottenham drew this weekend, although that was an absolute joke that they didn't lose that, but VAR, don't get me started on VAR. Chelsea, they huffed and puffed. They got the win, but they huffed and puffed. If Arsenal win tonight away from home against Sheffield United, who are going to make this a tough game, a really tough game, I think, it helps to set down a marker, because then, we play in the Europa League on Thursday. It means we've won a few games on the bounce. If we can pick up a win against a team which you'd expect us to be winning in Vitoria, we then play Palace at home. We need to avenge that demon of last season. If we can win our next 3 games, if we win 3 games in the next 6 days, things start to look a little bit rosier. And I don't care what people online and on Twitter will say about the way and the style that we performed. Right now, it feels like about grinding out results.
Yeah, and there's no better way to start coming back from an international break with a victory. Well, one Arsenal fan who will know a little bit more than us, because he is at tonight's game, I believe, Dave Seeger, has joined us on the line. Dave, an important part of the Gunners Town show, the Arsenal fan show on Love Sport Radio. Dave, are you there tonight? What is the feeling when the team lineups were announced?
Bemused. Very bemused. I think everyone was expecting Kieran Tierney to be in the starting lineup. I'm sure you discussed it. Bit of shock in the pub, I have to say, that he wasn't. Yeah. Probably a little bit of pleased to see Joe Willock. Surprised to see Lacazette not. Genuinely surprised. Very narrow, very conservative. Pretty much Emery to a T, really.
Yeah, Dave, hello, mate. So I've got a question mark around, and you'll probably know this, around our midfield too, because I'm not convinced with Guendouzi and Xhaka, just because I think they're so similar. Yeah. So
similar, but one's younger, more energy. Yeah.
So what's your feelings on it? What would you have done? Give us a bit of a thought.
I mean, I think look, I'm no different to any other Arsenal fan. I think Torreira should be starting in front of the back 4, and then two others. I think you can't play Xhaka the deepest because he's just not mobile enough. I mean, it's no secret that's my view. It's not saying I don't like him. It's not saying I don't recognise his attributes, but just not in that position. And I would play Torreira all day, every day.
Well, we were both shocked tonight, Dave, at the no inclusion of Tierney. We thought he would get the start, maybe perhaps.
Yeah, astonishing.
It was. We both went before we started. We obviously think he will start the game on Thursday in the Europa League. But by and by the team selection, Dave, this is a game that Arsenal need to win. Is it a must-win? We were just talking about before we spoke to you.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. You lay down a marker. But I thought we'd be laying down a marker because we had some of our players fit and playing. I thought this. So I thought maybe Bellerin, maybe Holding, definitely Tierney. I thought this is time to lay down a marker. And it's just now I'm a bit bemused, to be honest. But no, it's a massively important game. What's odd is you got, as you just were saying before I came on, you've got 3 games in 6 days. Arguably, this is the most important because we're going to play the kids on Thursday. We should beat. I know we didn't at the end of last season. We should beat Palace at home. This is the toughest game. So arguably, play your best team in this game, and if Tierney can't make 90 minutes, then rest him. This is the biggest game of the 3.
Yeah.
So very strange.
Dave, you've obviously been taken in the atmosphere and stuff. Have you spoken to or heard the noises of any Sheffield United fans? Are they quite up for this? Do you think they'll they fancy their chances against us tonight?
No, I've only spoken to the bar staff, Chris. So obviously in an Arsenal-only pub, I haven't spoken to many Sheffield United fans. No, so I can't honestly, I can't even make that up. But the Arsenal fans are very bullish.
And what would you say, Dave? Would you give Sheffield United much chance tonight? Because obviously we can say from the Sheffield United fan show on Love Sport Radio, they really fancy their chances. I was saying to Chris earlier, that typical tag of Arsenal, cold, wet Monday night game, Arsenal aren't the most physical. We can really get to them. They fancy their chances. Should they fancy their chances tonight? Can they exploit any weakness within Arsenal?
No, well, I think the thing about Sheffield United is they play a really unusual formation, don't they? With 3 centre-backs and sort of inverted wing-backs. I think that's the question mark, is are they going to catch Arsenal by surprise? The one thing I would say about Emery, however, is you're not going to catch him by surprise. He does do his research, and he might set up too defensively for some Arsenal fans. But tonight, he probably won't be surprised by Sheffield United, whereas I think a couple of other teams have been this season. So hopefully he's selected because of that. We'll see as the game unfolds. But I like the fact that we've got the legs of Willock, but I think most of Arsenal fans would like to see Ceballos as well. Certainly in the pub, his name has been sung almost as much as Rocastle. So I think Arsenal fans hope to see Ceballos and Lacazette and Tierney. They were the three that we're surprised that aren't playing tonight. They're the three that everyone wanted to see. But there we go.
Well, Dave, we know you're at the game. We won't keep you long. What is your score prediction for this evening?
3-1.
3-1. I won't expect it any other way. Dave, always a pleasure to speak to you. I'm sure we'll see you back in the studio very soon. Dave Seeger there. Dave Seeger, obviously in the pub, enjoying himself as he should be. 3-1. I didn't expect anything less. Chris, I will get your score prediction. Firstly, Dave just mentioned Dani Ceballos there. In the past few days, there have been rumours that apparently he's met the Real Madrid president, or his agent has, discussing this possibility, shall I say, of making his transfer to Arsenal permanent, maybe in the January transfer window, maybe in the summer. Do you believe that, is this a transfer you would like?
I think it would be a good transfer for us. He's a good player. He's a decent player. He's had a couple of good games, couple of games where he's been a bit hit and miss.
He's a bit hot and cold. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, he is. He's a bit of a maverick player, isn't he?
Yeah,
he's so unpredictable. Yeah, he's so unpredictable in his playing style that it will take a while for his teammates to get used to him. Do I believe it? I don't think so, because firstly, I think he said things in the international break along the lines of, long term, I want to make it at Real Madrid. He said that even before he joined Arsenal on loan. I suspect for him to turn that around within the space of 2-3 months is unlikely. What I suspect is happening is the agent is making a few noises so that maybe Real Madrid show him a little bit of love. But my feeling is that he will probably go back to them at the end of the season. If we were talking May and he's played the whole season and he's absolutely loving it, and let's just say he's learnt English and suddenly he's a fluent speaker and he can get over the language barrier and he loves the horrible weather, then maybe we'll be talking about it. But I think it's probably a bit too soon. I suspect this is a bit of agent mischief making.
Yeah, I wouldn't put it past the agent, sure. But Zidane apparently is not the biggest fan of Dani Ceballos, hence why he was allowed this move. He gave him permission to move to Arsenal. He does seem, though, maybe it is his maverick style, his rogue style, someone that could learn to love it here. The fans, he's already, even if it has been a little bit hot and cold, become that fan's favourite, hasn't he? He's one of them. He's a bit of a passion merchant, but I love it. I love that, getting the fans up and ready to go whenever we win a corner or a tackle is made. And he does a certain thing, I'll call it gamesmanship, which I absolutely love to see.
Yeah.
Arsenal have missed that in the past few seasons. He's one that we need. Let's quickly look at the schedule now before Christmas. Or let's say before that next international break, that third and final international break. They come far too many for me. There's only so many times I can see San Marino and the Faroe Islands play games in the middle of the week, Chris. It is a tough run. Christmas is always a tough stretch. Games come thick and fast, as they do, like we said, 3 games in 6 days. But it's important here, not only do Arsenal keep pace, but they make that statement of intent as well, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think we've got Vitoria on Thursday. We've got Palace. I think we then play...
Which is huge on the weekend. I know Dave said... And the next game is always the most important, but Sunday is huge.
Yeah, I think it is, actually. I think the thing is, if you look at our fixtures running up to... I think we either play Man City at home or we play Everton away just before Christmas. And then we have a really tricky Christmas schedule, which includes January the 1st. Yeah, Chelsea twice in the matter of weeks. We play Man United on the 1st of January. We've got a really tough schedule when we hit Christmas. So we need to be racking up points now because we need a buffer, because we will inevitably drop points. We're not going to pick up 3 points against Man United at home, Man City at home, Chelsea at home, Chelsea away. We will drop points eventually. I mean, I'd love us to pick up 12 points there, but I can't quite see it. So you need to have that buffer, and these games are the buffer games, if you like, because we've got Sheffield United away. I think we've got Crystal Palace at home. We've got Wolves at home. I can't remember what some of the other games that we've got at home are, but they're all games that you'd expect Arsenal to be picking up points in. So for me, up until we get to the mid-November point, probably for the next month, we need to be racking up as many wins as possible. So if we're being defeated tonight, or we're picking up draws tonight and draws on Sunday, then it's going to make the games at Christmas feel very, very tight and difficult.
Chris, another question I'll ask, because you spoke about that measuring yard of success or the measuring stick for this team. I heard another debate actually on another show on Love Sport, and they said the thing is with Arsenal, you know, Sky or any TV, when Arsenal are on, they're quick to put up that graphic against the big six. It's like X amount of losses, 1 win or 1 point. And is that the next step that Arsenal need to take? Because they do normally, you know, I don't want to say flat track bully, but they beat the teams they should beat. I know the Watford game always springs to mind this season, which was an absolute horror show towards the end after going 2-0 up. But is that the next step, beating those teams, the Chelseas, the Man Uniteds, the Cities? We need to get back in when we are in more in contention in those games. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, away from home particularly, we've got a horrendous record away from home. There are teams like Wolves who have picked up more points against these teams than we have. But what I would say is, for me, if you take out the top six, I would actually be more than happy for us to be flat track bullies against every single one of the teams from 7th place down. Because if you're winning most of those games, then you're ending up in the top 4. The top 4 isn't determined. The league is determined by, you know, winning on a consistent basis, but top 4 is determined on how consistent you are, particularly against those teams. So even if there was some sort of football karma god that could come to me and say, you can have a draw home and away for every single one of the big 6 games, but you're going to win like 90-95% of the lesser results. I'd take it all day long, because I don't really ultimately.
Well,
I don't
from
care.
The Spurs game.
Well, do you know what? I'd take 2 draws home and away if it means that we're going to smash all of the other teams, because that means we'll hit top 4.
But I do like history, I do like records, Chris, and if we beat them the first game ever at their new place, that's something I kind of would want to hold on to. It'd be a very nice thing to gloat, because I'm that petty and I am that stubborn. But no, we can talk about that a lot further. But next, we're talking about the Europa League, which does return on Thursday, just like the Premier League returns tonight, and Arsenal play Sheffield United.
Giving your team a voice. Love Sport Radio. Premier League, Championship and fan shows. 7 days a week. We've got your team covered. Love Sport.
You all right, mate?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah? Really? It's just there's a massive grizzly bear sitting on you. You sure you're okay?
Well, now that you mention it.
Sometimes we say we're fine when we're not. But with 1 in 4 experiencing a mental health problem, if your mate says he's fine, he might not be. Be in your mate's corner and ask twice. Time to change.
You're in leakage, you're in leakage. You're in leakage, you're in leakage. You're in leakage. You're in leakage, you're in leakage.
Henna men.
Cage.
Pants and pads.
You're
discreet. Masculine.
You're
secure absorption zone. Buy online or in shops.
You're
Tenna men. Keep control.
Urine?
No.
Driving too close to the car in front gives you less time to react. You may not realize that you're tailgating. Leave a 2-second gap between you and the vehicle in front. When it's wet, leave a 4-second gap. By staying back, you give yourself time to react. Stay safe. Stay back. Highways England, connecting the country.
How are you? How are you really? Modern life can be busy, and sometimes it's easier to look after others before looking after yourself. But there's only one you. And making small changes to your lifestyle now could improve your chances of staying healthier longer. So take the first step to a healthier you with our free How Are You quiz. See how you score and get personalised tips and support. From how to eat a little healthier to turning a 10-minute walk into exercise. Just search One You.
This is Love Sport.
You are listening to the Arsenal Fan Show on Love Sport Radio with me, Charlie Hawkins. I'm joined in the studio with Gunners Town, Chris Howard. We've been talking everything. We've covered a lot tonight. We've been talking social media, how can we protect players, how it spreads. We've been talking the return of the Premier League for Arsenal, which does happen tonight against Sheffield United. Now we're going to turn our attentions to the Europa League, and Arsenal are at home against Vitoria this Thursday. And just quickly, you can get involved. What do you make of the team selection tonight? Are you worried? Are you nervous going into tonight's game? Tweet us at Love Sport Radio or call us 0208 70 20 558. It is the Europa League. Chris, I've got to admit, And I enjoy the Europa League. I enjoy any European competition. Obviously, we'd like to be in the Champions League, Europe's elite, as they say, the top dining table. But I have enjoyed the Europa League because I thought it was a very good chance for us to win. We did make the final last year. I'll be honest, not like I was a player, but I'm still a little bit hurting from that, and it's taken me just this little bit longer to invest this year. I know it's only been 2 games, but I'm still hurting from the fact we had a glorious chance to win last summer.
That was an utter disgrace, if I'm completely honest with you. I was so enraged by that performance in the final. It was the biggest bottle job. After we'd been told that this guy knows how to win Europa League finals, I genuinely have.
And after not getting the top 4 in the Premier League, it's like, well, it's all right, we'll win the Europa League.
Yeah. It was like it should be fated in the stars. And with Arsenal, when things like that happen, it never works out, doesn't it? That was a limp performance. It was, I think that for many people actually turned many people Unai Emery.
You just took the words out my mouth, because I was going to say I've heard a lot on social media about Unai, and I'll admit I'm quite shocked. So I like Unai and the job he's doing, which feels almost divisive, should I say, to say this, because apparently a lot of people aren't his biggest fan or worried about his style, his identity, his philosophy that he's playing. But I do believe that game was that was where the demise started a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I've read, I've spoken to a lot of fans, I've listened to podcasts, and it does feel like that was a watershed moment because it was such a shocking performance. You know, I think if we'd have drew 1-1 with Chelsea and gone out on penalties, people would have probably still pointed towards the collapse of our league campaign and said, well, he's not really succeeded there. But I feel like that they would have given him a little bit more of a leeway. It felt like lots of people turned on him there. And I don't think that's necessarily right to judge a manager based on one particular game. But what I will say about this season is we've had a stuttering start, I would say. And what we're looking for is a little bit more cohesion in the team. You know, a lot of people said it's his first season, you need to give him a chance last season, which is fair enough. And we got to a Europa League final and we lost that, albeit terribly. We started off the summer and pre-season and people are thinking, oh, it looks all right. We don't look too bad. You know, Ozil was even in form and, you know, it looks like we've got a good team coming together, and then we've made some good signings and everyone's getting excited. And the first Burnley game, you know, result-wise, perfect. We played quite well at times. But it hasn't really evolved from there. And I'm not quite sure why. And what actually I do know why is decision-making as well has been questionable. You know, we thought to ourselves, why aren't you playing Torreira? Why aren't you playing Ozil? Okay, we've now found out that there are reasons behind that. You know, what's the plan here? Like, it doesn't seem to. There are certain players, like when he does play Torreira, he plays him too further forward. So there's a lot of decisions that he's making which are leaving people scratching their heads, and I think that's turning people against him as well.
Even if these are the right and the wrong decisions, again, just to offer the flip side of that, is this a problem not just at Arsenal now, every club where everyone wants the formation that they think works best or they suits, or play the players that they think is the best formation for this Arsenal? This is our strongest 11, because now it's been a show where we've spoke about social media and Twitter. That voice is so vocal, Chris. Is it difficult? Because, you know, ultimately, I'm not saying, you know, well, we don't know more than Unai. He's at training every day. If this is the head-scratching decisions he's making, he believes this is the team. Whether me and you disagree, he believes this is the team that's best going forward.
Yeah, I don't think we can deny that that's clearly what he believes is the best. He's put the best team out tonight to win the match. But I think we're all just questioning the types of players that he's selecting and the positions that he's selecting. Is he the best person to pick the team all the time? Well, he's the person that's picking the team, so we don't have a lot of choice on that. Is he making the right decisions all the time? I'm not sure he is, and I think he doesn't really know his best team now as well. Like, even if we had everyone fit, I still think we don't have a consistent 11. And one thing you say about Sheffield United, so I was looking, I don't know too much about them, and I know we're meant to be talking about Victoria, but Sheffield United play the same team every single week. They know their style. They know what they're supposed to do. Each player knows about it. Per Mertesacker used to talk about those automatisms. We don't have that at Arsenal because we rotate so much. Players change so much that it's really, really difficult.
Yeah, it is true. Well, let's talk about that Vitoria game, because I think we can get into the Unai Emery debate a little bit longer. People think I'm a staunch Unai Emery fan. Is that what you was going to ask?
No, I was going to say, please don't ask me about any of the Vitoria players, because I know absolutely nothing whatsoever.
What did you think of the advancing midfielder on the weekend? I watched Vitoria. No, I didn't. So we can talk about the game and the Europa League as a whole. I said I wasn't invested this year, Chris. Are you already straight away back on the train? This is another campaign, another year where we can win, because you said it's been not an indifferent start to the season, you know, a bit stop-start. You mentioned the Burnley game. It certainly hasn't been that way in the Europa League, though, has it?
It's been fun.
It's been unbelievable.
I've been enjoying it, really
the
enjoying
smiles
it.
Have come through.
Yeah, because the players the young players that are being given a chance are succeeding and performing well. So we can almost project. So as Arsenal fans, we're projecting the success of these players based on their performances, you know, age of 18, 19 against teams like Nottingham Forest or Vitoria or you know, the different teams that we've played in Frankfurt, in the Standard Liège and Frankfurt. We're projecting, you know, if they're playing like this now at 18, what are they going to be like at 21? We're going to have an entirely homegrown team by the time, you know, we get to 2022 or something like that. So you naturally project as a fan, and to see them banging in goals, to see a bit more cohesive football, it's been really enjoyable. And this is why it's a bit baffling when we see these lineups that don't quite seem to make sense in the league. I've kind of got a theory behind it, which I think Unai Emery, like Arsene Wenger, has his favourites and sticks with his favourites. Have you run
this theory past me? Because if we're this new partnership Holmes and Watson, then you need to, you know,
I do apologise. I'll email you first thing in the morning on Mondays from now on.
Share this theory, please, Chris.
But yeah, I do feel like he's got his favourites. I think Guendouzi is a favourite. He's playing well, so it's fair.
He's certainly a favourite.
I think Xhaka is a favourite, and I think players like Chambers are on the other side. I think he's playing Chambers because he's almost been forced into it by form. But I think Chambers is going to be out of the team before we can even blink, to be honest with you.
Well, Chambers played against Newcastle, then we signed David Luiz, he was straight back out of the team, and then there was another game when he played, and then straight away he was straight back out of the team, and I just thought, it's not a disrespect, because you have to play your best 11. If Chambers isn't part of that, he doesn't play. I completely understand that. But is there an element to that as well, when you're just whipping the players out who aren't your so-called favourites, as you mentioned, that can not necessarily damage morale, but what does it say for their confidence going forward when you know, because if we're sitting here talking about the manager as favourites, the players certainly know that also.
Yeah, I think it does have an impact. I think that probably rings to my conspiracy theory about about the fact that he there are certain players that he's not as fond of, and I'm not sure that the players really always get his methods. So I don't know. Is Chambers a long-term thing? I think I'm hoping he'll even play on Thursday, but I'm hoping he'll play in central defence. So I've got a feeling that they'll play Holding and Chambers, or what he'll do is he'll play Holding and maybe Mustafi, and then he'll play maybe Bellerin and Tierney against Vitoria, with Torreira, Ceballos, Ozil, Lacazette up top. So actually, that could be quite a potentially strong team. I don't know who he'd play out wide, because I don't think Saka will play today and then on Thursday. I don't know if Reece Nelson's back fit either. So,
well, one of the reasons why I wanted the players to play today, because I thought if they are playing in action on Thursday, less likely of them playing against Palace, your Bellerin, your Tierney, your Holdings, all Arsenal fans, we can agree on that. We're all calling for those players at the minute. We mentioned how many games we've got. The games come thick and fast. I believe it's 10 or so in 20-odd days. But when we are cruising in Europa League and we can play this so-called weaker side, even though it is still a strong team, if we qualify early, say 4 games in, the fixtures aren't that congested, because we're qualified and we can play a relatively even younger and weaker side in the 5 and 6 games, which become ultimately dead rubbers, don't they, Chris?
Yeah, do you know what? That's what I think he did really well last season. I think in games, what he did is he got the Europa League sewn up early, so that then he could rotate out and really play quite a development youth team for games 5 and 6, and that worked for us, I think. And that was during that. During that period of 12, 13 games.
Yeah,
unbeaten. You know, we had some of those Europa League wins in there as well. So I think he's going for the same thing. And, do you know what? We've picked up 2 wins already. We play home and away with Vitoria. If we beat them and then beat them on the 6th of November, then you've picked up your 12
points from 4.
And you don't really, you can use the rest as the dead rubbers. So, you know, it would make sense to do a bit of rotation. How we rotate, I think that's going to be interesting for Thursday.
Yeah, well, let's quickly turn our attentions back to tonight because it is Arsenal-Sheffield United. The kickoff is a mere moments away. I know you're nervous about this one, Chris. More nervous than I was expecting because I do actually feel confident of a win. But what is your score prediction for tonight?
My hope is that we win this 2-1. I really hope it's I don't know why, but I think we're going to concede because it's Arsenal. But my hope is that we've got Aubameyang on form tonight. So.
Well, Chris's hope is that it's 2-1. Either way, he doesn't care if it's 1-0, 2-1, 3-2, 4-3. He will take the 3 points, as we all will. But this has been the Arsenal Fan Show on Love Sport Radio with me, Charlie Hawkins. I was joined from Chris Howard from Gunners Town. You can join the Arsenal Fan Show every Monday, 7 to 8. And next week, we will be reviewing those 3 games. Tonight's one against Sheffield United, the Europa League game on Thursday versus Vitoria, and that huge game to Palace on the weekend.
This is Love Sport.
Can you save money on your car insurance? Chris did with a little